Alright, this is going to be a review for the Echo CS400 chainsaw. I'm not a professional, I'm not a logger, and I'm not a landscaper. I maintain my own 3.2 acres. I burn 3 to 4 cords of wood a year. And I cut anything up to from real small up to 16-inch wood. Very occasionally 18 inches or more, and sometimes oak. But I've had the saw for 5 years, so I think I'm qualified to give a review on the saw. I've used it and abused it, and so I'm going to go through and let you know what I like about it and what I don't. So here's the good points. It's got a 5-year warranty for homeowners, which is me. That's pretty impressive. I don't think many companies give a 5-year warranty anymore. I haven't really had to use it, and it's now probably out of warranty, but it's nice to know it's there. For other professionals, it's a 1-year warranty, which is still probably a pretty good deal. It's got good build quality. It's got nice fit and finish. All the parts are smooth, no jagged edges. Everything works nice. Everything's finished nicely. That's nice. It's got metal parts on it. Some metal parts. The handle is metal. It's got this nice metal toggle switch on it. And it's got metal bucking spikes, which not all saws have. This one appears to come off with 2 or 3 screws once you remove the bar. But I know some of them have plastic bucking spikes, which is useless, in my opinion. I also like the controls. It's got on and off. It's got a primer bulb, and it's got what I would call a starting aid rather than a choke. So to start it, you turn it on, press the bulb until the gas is in the bulb, and then you pull out this starting, we'll just call it a choke. This has got an in position and an out position. That's it. So to start it, you pull it out, and you pull the cord until it starts to pop. Then you push this in, pull it another time or two, and it'll start. And it starts reliably too. The saw has what they call an I-30 starting system in it. And it works great. I have never had a problem once starting the saw. You also have easy access to your filter and spark plug. You unscrew this, you can do it by hand, no need to use the tool. You can take this cap off, and there's your spark plug and air filter right there. You can take the air filter out with no tools. Again, this just spins off, and there's your air filter. And to get the spark plug, the saw comes with a scrunch. It's got a screwdriver on one end for the caps, and it's got sockets on the other side for the side cover nuts and the spark plug. So that's easy access, easy to deal with. I also like the reliability of this saw. Like I said, it always runs, it always starts. I have not had the saw in because it would not run. When it was new, it did this funny little thing where you'd start it and it would stall out if you gave it gas. But I have a feeling that was more due to my impatience and unwillingness to let it warm up. It was never really an issue. Once it warmed up, it ran fine. I did have it back to the dealer several times to check into that, but they never found anything, which makes me say probably it was my impatience. But it's never really been in for any other repairs either, so that's a plus. It also has a G-Force air pre-clean system in it, which basically spins most of the junk out of the air before it even gets to the air filter. I'm still on the original air filter after 5 years. I've cleaned it a couple times, but it doesn't really get that dirty. So that's good. You're never constantly fiddling with the air filter. I was made aware somewhat recently by the dealer that if you're using the Echo, specifically Echo 2-stroke oil, it's already got stabilizer in it. And that's what I used for most of the life of the saw. Standard 87 octane gasoline with 10% ethanol in it and Echo 2-stroke oil. And I never had a problem with that setup. I would empty out the saw and run it dry when I was going to leave it for a while, but I'd come back in the spring after several months and dump the same gasoline into it, and it would start up and run without any issue at all, which is pretty impressive for a two-stroke, I think. Now, more recently, I've been running this. This is from VP Fuels. It's already mixed 50-1 in the can, and it says very specifically right there that it's good for echo. So I've been using this. It's expensive. It costs $24 a gallon, but I feel it's a trade-off. You don't have to mix the fuel with a two-stroke oil. It's got no ethanol in it, so you don't even have to concern yourself about the ethanol issue. The saw runs great on it. So, you know, if I was burning 10 gallons a year, I certainly wouldn't be buying it. But for what I do burn a year, yeah, I'll spend the extra money. That's a personal choice. The weight of the saw is also pretty good. It's small. It feels small. It handles well. It's easy to wield in the woods. Echo says that this saw weighs 10.1 pounds dry. So I don't know. Add another couple pounds for the fuels and oil, and I'm not sure if that honestly includes the bar or not. So it's in the 10 to 12, 13 pound range when it's ready to go, and I'm pretty happy with that. I'm kind of weight sensitive, but I have no big issue with that. So that's the good points. Now I'll go through the bad points. One of the things that drives me crazy is the parts availability. Now, I deal with an Echo dealer, a small shop. It's not Home Depot or a big box store of any kind, and they're an actual Echo dealer. But the gas cap, the oil cap, the chain catcher, this cap that goes over the air filter, none of that's available off the shelf down there. Now, that's entirely possible that that's a local issue, that these particular guys just don't want to stock that stuff. But nonetheless, it drives me crazy. I feel that you should be able to go down and get these parts, the chain catcher especially. I mean, it's a sacrificial item. Why is that not available on the shelf? It's a couple dollar part. So that has been a never-ending annoyance to, have to go buy something and for it to not be there. And that leads me to one of my other aggravations, which is this stupid oil fill cap. There's a slot in it for the scratch, and I feel that you kind of have to use that because, you're not going to grab that. It's covered with oil and grease, and it's going to be hard to tighten it up. There's been several times where the oil has leaked out because it wasn't tight enough. So it feels like you're almost forced to use the scrunch to tighten it up, and it's got to stop. You turn it and it stops. There's a solid stop in there. But it feels like you have to, that's over tightening it. When you go to loosen it, these two ears on the cap, you can see them flexing, and after a year or two or three, that cap finally broke on me one day. It snapped right in half. It was completely unusable. So I had to go down to the dealer. I had to order two of them. They were $7 to $12 a piece or so, and then I had to wait for them. But for lack of an oil cap, I couldn't do what I was doing that day. So I wasn't particularly happy with that. And the same thing happened basically with the gas cap. Now, the gas cap doesn't have an issue of over-tightening it, and it works great and all. But at some point, the O-ring inside of it got pinched or otherwise destroyed. I forget what happened. And the O-ring is not available separate from the cap. You have to buy the entire cap. Well, I didn't need the cap. The cap's fine. There's no problem with the cap. So, and again, you had to order it and wait. So what I did instead is I said, screw it, and I went over to the hardware store, and I bought whatever O-ring was on the shelf. It is not a Bunna N O-ring, which is what you need to resist the gasoline. Gasoline will eat an O-ring that's not Bunna N. But having said that, I've had this O-ring in the saw for a year and a half, and so far it's held up. So for a cheap $2 O-ring that it was available immediately, it was a good fix. Another thing I don't like is the chain. Is the teeth on the chain is a little bit wimpy. This is an almost new chain, and I feel that the teeth are just small. I'm used to, steels oil-o-matic chain, and the teeth are way bigger, way more tooth to grind off. These chains seem to disappear real fast. So, I don't know. The chain could be bigger. The other problem I have with the whole chain bar, chain tensioner, side cover thing is that the chain tensioner I'm not entirely thrilled with. Yeah, it's pretty standard in how it's built. It's got at least the thing on the side. I know some of them, the adjuster is between the case and the bar, which is awful. At least this one is on the side. But it's small, it's fiddly, it gets all covered in crap, and it's hard to get it adjusted right so it snaps back onto the bar. And I don't know if it's a chain tensioner's fault or if it's my user's fault or what it is, but for some reason the chain comes off the bar fairly frequently and always unexpectedly. And I don't know if that's just the chain stretches that much or if the bar slides that much and lets the chain loosen up that quickly. But I start and I have the chain properly tensioned, and it always, no matter how I do that, it seems to loosen up and the chain will derail, and that's an aggravation. Just another note on the tensioner though. There's a model of the saw called the CS400F, and that actually includes a no tools chain tensioner. It's another $20, and I don't know if it was available 5 years ago when I bought the saw, but if I'd have known that, I would have bought that. That would be a great thing to have. My biggest issue with the whole chain bar side cover setup is that this chain is hard to get onto and off of the saw. Now, all weekend long, it's been making a liar out of me and coming off and going back on perfectly. But you notice the chain rides behind the clutch, which certainly probably can't help the situation. But more often than not, I find myself fighting the chain off the bar. And it comes off fine up to the end of the bar, and then right at the tip of the bar right here, it sticks at this point, and it won't flip that last little driver out of the tip of the bar. Like I say, this weekend is going to make a liar out of me and do it every single time. And then it'll go back on fine. But more often than not, when I need to use the saw, I end up fighting the chain. And it doesn't seem to matter. You move this forward or backwards or side to side or whatever. It seems like you never can get it oriented correctly to get that chain off of there. So again, that is just an annoyance of mine, and it just drives me crazy. And my last point on this saw that I don't like is that I feel it's underpowered. It's a 40cc saw. When I bought it, I told the dealer exactly what I was going to do with it, and he recommended this particular saw. And as it turns out, I was on the Echo website this morning, and they have a thing where you can make selections on what you're going to cut, how often you're going to cut, whether you're a professional user or not, and all those kinds of things. So I made my selections, and it solidly pointed directly towards this particular saw. So I don't know if it's a combination of I was undersold on the saw and I've progressed beyond the realistic capabilities of this saw, which I suspect is partially the case. But even so, with a 16-inch bar, smaller than what it came with a brand new chain, not cutting huge wood, cutting medium-sized wood, it still feels like it's underpowered nonetheless. I am fully aware that there are carbon muffler mods all over YouTube for this very particular saw to bring out the power, but I feel that a machine that is billed as a professional model and costs $300, I don't think you should have to go into making modifications to get the power out of it that it should already have. I am also fully aware that this fact is mostly due to the EPA regulations. They make Echo dumb the saw down, but still, I think it's ridiculous. So that's what I don't like about the saw. Now, here's my overall impressions. I think this is a high quality saw. I think it's got some really nice features. Um, I want, in the absolute worst way, to like the saw, but I wouldn't buy it again. I think the parts availability should be better. I think that just for me personally, there are a whole bunch of small, little, annoying things that aggravate me constantly that add up. Um, Now, for a more occasional user than even me, I think it could be a great saw. If you have an acre or so, if you're cutting a cord or less of firewood a year for your fireplace, if you just need a saw hanging around for when the storm blows down a small tree or a branch, something like that, I think the saw could be pretty good. It costs $300, which isn't cheap, but it's going to vastly outlast those crappy home light or pull-in saws that you buy down at Home Depot. You'll be buying 3 or 4 of those things before you buy one of these, and they will give you constant aggravations. So if you're that kind of user, this saw could very well be a good saw for you. But if you're anything like me, you're cutting what I'm cutting, and you have this kind of property or bigger or anything like that, I don't know. You might want to think about something else. So what I'm thinking about is a steel. At some point, I will go with steel. I know steel. I like steel. I've used their stuff before. They have the features I want. They offer a no-tool gas and oil cap. I know that the chains are easy to get on and off. I've never had a problem. I really, really like their oil-o-matic chain, which they make themselves. It's got big teeth on it. So that's what I'll be buying. It will also be at least a 50cc minimum saw. I would like to upgrade to 60cc. At some point, the weight and cost will determine that. I know that once you get past 50 cc's, the cost goes up quickly. And the same thing can go for the weight depending on the specific model you're looking at. But that's where I'm headed. So anyway, I hope you liked the review. Feel free to drop a comment in the box below. And also feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.